Okay, folks, it's 9:56, and I just noticed that I forgot to record. So there's a lot of midrash about Job, which then leads to midrash about Isaac and Ishmael and Abraham from pages 89 to now page 92 in the PDF of the Koran. And I completely apologize for that. There wasn't People weren't saying much in comment here, and it kind of reads straight through. So I'm sorry, but you can just catch up in reading that. Where on this paragraph the Gemara asks on page 92, but perhaps the verse listed them in the order of their wisdom. That is to say, perhaps in fact Ishmael preceded Isaac, but the Torah did not list them in that order. The Gemara answers, but if that is so, consider that the verse states, and Esau and Jacob, his sons, buried him. What is the reason that the verse there did not list them in the order of their wisdom? Rather, since Ishmael allowed Isaac to precede him, it is clear that he made Isaac his leader. And since he made him his leader, learn from it that he repented in Abraham's lifetime. Incidental to the discussion of the verse, and God blessed Abraham with everything, back to the idea of Bakol, the Gemara states that the sages taught there are three people to whom the Holy One, blessed be He, gave already in this world a taste of the world to come. They are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, as it is written with regard to him, and the Lord blessed Abraham with everything. Isaac, as it is written with regard to him, and I have eaten from everything. Mikol. So that you got the Bakol with Abraham, the Mikol with Isaac. Jacob, as it is written with regard to him, because I have everything. Kol. So the Bakol, Mikol, Kol refers to the unique blessing that they receive that other people don't, is a taste of the world to come. This teaches that already in their lifetimes they merited everything that is perfection. There were three people over whom the evil inclination had no sway. They are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as it is written with regard to them respectively, with everything, from everything, everything. So for this, there's this other idea. So Bakol Mikol Kol could refer to a taste of the world to come, or it could refer to that the evil inclination has no sway over them, that they are not tempted by evil things. The completeness of their blessings means that they did not have to contend with their evil inclinations. And some say that even David was not subject to his evil inclination, as it is written, and my heart has died within me, meaning that the evil inclination in his heart was nullified as if his heart had died. And how does the other authority, who does not include David in his list, explain this verse? He is mentioning his travails. David means to say that his heart died within him owing to all the suffering that he endured, but he says nothing about his evil inclination. The sages taught there were six people over whom the angel of death had no sway in their demise, and they are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as it is written with regard to them respectively, with everything, from everything, everything. Since they were blessed with everything, they were certainly spared the anguish of the angel of death. So how they died then, without the angel of death being involved, unclear, but at least it wasn't, because there are stories. I remember a story about King David and how he tried to avoid the angel of death coming. And so there's an idea that if you're studying Torah, you keep the angel of death away. So King David was studying Torah, and the angel of death made the harp sound. There was some kind of harp hanging outside his window. He made the harp sound that distracted King David from his studies for a moment, and that was the only moment that the angel of death needed to come and kill David. Okay, so from Bakol Mikol Kol means that they were able to keep the angel of death away. Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, as it is written with regard to them, that they died by the mouth of the Lord, which indicates that they died with a kiss and not at the hand of the angel of death. The Gemara asks, but with regard to Miriam, it is not written by the mouth of the Lord. Rabbi Elazar says Miriam also died with a kiss, as this is learned through a verbal analogy between the word there, mentioned in regard to Miriam, and Miriam died there, and the word there mentioned in regard to Moses, and Moses died there. And for what reason is by the mouth of the Lord not stated with regard to her? It's unseemly to mention death by a kiss with regard to a woman. Okay, so for modesty reasons, the Torah did not list Miriam dying with the kiss of God. The sages taught there were 7 people over whom the worm and the maggot had no sway. So once they were dead and in the ground, no worm and maggot on their bodies. And they are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, and Benjamin, son of Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as it's written with regard to them, respectively, Bakol, Mikol, Kol. Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, as it's written with regard to them, by the mouth of the Lord. Okay, so not only is it the kiss of death, but the kiss, that is, the kiss from God, the kiss of God also meant that their bodies were protected from the worm and the maggot. Benjamin, son of Jacob, as it is written, and to Benjamin he said, the beloved of the Lord, he shall dwell in safety by him. Even in death he rests securely, unbothered by worms. And some say that even David is included, as it is written, my flesh also dwells secure. The Gemara asks, and how does the other authority, who does not include David, explain this? The Gemara answers, he is asking for mercy, that his flesh should dwell secure and not be subject to worms and maggots, but his request was denied. All right, so there's also this thread in Midrash about how great King David is, and that King David should be included in lists that include righteous people. So lots of Midrashim about how righteous King David was. Even though in his lifetime, as the Bible describes it, he made some questionable decisions. The sages taught in a Baraita there were 4 people who died only because of the counsel of the primordial snake, in the wake of which all of humanity became mortal, and not on account of any personal sin. This is the snake in the Garden of Eden that caused Eve and Adam to eat of the fruit of the tree that they weren't supposed to touch. And that eating of the fruit made Adam and Eve mortal, which then meant that humanity became mortal. Until that time, supposedly, people were immortal. Okay? And they are, so who died only because of the counsel of the primordial snake? They are Benjamin, son of Jacob, Amram, father of Moses, Yishai, father of David, and Chilav, son of David. And all of these are known through tradition, except for Yishai, father of David, with regard to whom it is written explicitly, and Avshalom placed Amasa over the army instead of Yoav, and Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Ithra, the Israelite, who engaged in intercourse with Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, the sister of Tzeruiah, mother of Yoav. But was Abigail the daughter of Nahash? Was she not the daughter of Yishai, as it is written? And their sisters were Tzeruiah and Abigail. Rather, she was called daughter of Nahash to indicate that she was the daughter of one who died only because of the counsel of the snake. Where are we here? Where's the next page? There we go. Oh, so that's the end of a chapter. Okay, fascinating. Yes. Fascinating that we end the chapter on these bizarre midrashim.
Yeah.
Okay, not every chapter does it that way, but okay. So now,
For putting all that stuff in there then.
well, yeah, the thing is that the editor of the Talmud had material that he didn't want to get rid of. So he had to figure out how to fit it in into the Gemara. So if there's a loose tangent somewhere, then okay, I got all these Job midrashim, and then I have all these Bakol, Mikol, Kol midrashim. So I'll put them all together and lop it in here because there's a loose kind of connection with that. Okay, so here's the summary of the chapter. This chapter established that with regard to walls that form partitions in a courtyard, regional custom dictates the materials out of which such walls must be constructed, as well as the thickness of those walls. When two neighbors agree to build a wall between their respective properties, each party contributes half the space upon which the wall is to be constructed and pays half the construction costs. If the wall later collapses, the space and the materials are divided equally between them. If one of the neighbors builds the wall on his own, he builds it wholly on his property and at his expense, and he fashions a border mark to indicate that he alone built the wall. The Gemara also concluded that invasion of privacy resulting from exposure to the gaze of one's neighbor is considered damage, and therefore, in a place where there is such an invasion of privacy, one party can compel the other to build a barrier which must be at least 4 cubits high. One party can compel the other to build a partition in 3 other instances, where there is an invasion of privacy in one's courtyard, or in a garden where it's customary to erect a barrier, when a neighbor who initially opposed building a wall demonstrates that he's pleased that it was built, for example, by completing a fence erected by his neighbor, or when the initially reluctant neighbor derives benefit from the barrier, such as by building another wall close to it in order to cover both walls with a roof. Just as neighbors can compel each other to build a wall, so too the residents of a courtyard or a city can compel each other to build whatever is necessary for their protection. Mention is therefore made in this chapter of various ordinances with regard to communal obligations that are cast upon all the residents of a city, such as charity and municipal improvements. The Gemara determined that responsibility for funding whatever brings benefit to all the city's residents is imposed upon all of them, including minor orphans, whereas funds for that which is merely for protection are not collected from Torah scholars. The sages established that every property is subject to the halacha of division, provided that it's large enough that each of its co-owners will receive a portion that can still be used, and the division will not interfere with the original use of the property. In such a case, each party can compel the other to either buy his portion or sell him his. The above applies to a division of property demanded by one of the co-owners. If both parties agree to divide their jointly owned property, every property can be divided, with the exception of books of the Bible contained in a single volume, which, owing to the honor that must be shown them, may not be divided. Incidental to the discussion of these issues, the chapter addressed some of the halachot governing charity, taxes, and the authorship of the books included in the Bible. In addition to the halachic discussions in this chapter, there are also 2 large sections of Agadah, like Midrash, which were not directly connected to the subject matter of the chapter, but were discussed incidentally to matters arising in the course of the halachic discussion. The first dealt primarily with the mitzvot of charity, while the second discussed the Torah scroll in particular and the Bible in general. The latter section also explored the biblical character of Job, along with his era and character. Right? So the tangent about Job started when we were talking about how to divide a scroll of the Bible. Can you divide the scroll of the Bible, or what are the books of the Bible, etc. Okay. So now we'll start chapter 2. This chapter discusses those occasions in which one performs an activity on his own property and thereby causes damage to his neighbor. Damage to one's neighbor comes in various forms and results from different types of actions. The problems discussed in the Gemara concern the limit of private activities. To what extent is an individual entitled to act within his own property, and when is the damage he inflicts considered so severe that he's barred from certain activities, notwithstanding the fact that they are performed in his private domain? Some actions cause immediate damage to the property of another, in which case they can be compared to an act of direct harm, or, in the language of the Gemara, the shooting of one's arrows. In other situations, the damage is not immediate, and its effects on the neighbor's property are apparent only at a later stage. Likewise, there are certain types of damage that are tangible, while others are intangible. For example, the ability to peer into another's house. Some types of damage cause only a slight loss or a sense of comfort. Others are unbearable, might lead to extensive financial loss, or might even entail physical danger. An analysis of these issues raises several fundamental questions. Is it correct to say that in general there's a principle that it is the responsibility of the one who has the potential to cause damage to distance himself from another's property or person in order to ensure that he avoids causing damage? Or does an individual generally have the right to do as he pleases on his own property, and it's the neighbor's responsibility to distance himself if he's likely to sustain damage? I don't know, like shooting off fireworks. This leads to a further issue. If one distances his activities from his neighbor so as not to cause damage, is he entitled to compensation, or is he simply fulfilling an obligation for which he does not receive payment? Yet another dilemma concerns a case where one took precautions to avoid causing damage to another, and nevertheless his activity damaged his neighbor's property. Do his efforts serve to exempt him from responsibility? Or must he still pay for the damage he caused? In which case, the instructions of the sages can be considered mere good advice that does not have legal ramifications in the event of damage. Just as one's actions can damage the property of another individual, they can also damage public property. This chapter discusses the right of the public to prevent an individual from harming their collective interest, and the differences between one who causes damage to another individual and one who causes damage to the public. The discussion and resolution of these matters are the main topics of this chapter. All right, so let's read the Mishnah, and maybe we'll stop after reading the Mishnah. A person may not dig a pit close to the pit of another in order to avoid damaging the latter's pit. And similarly, one may not dig a ditch, nor a cave, that is a covered pit, nor a water channel, nor a launderer's pond, which is a pit used for washing clothes, unless he distance all of these 3 handbreadths from the wall of another, and he plasters lime on the place where there is water. 3 handbreadths. So the space from my pinky to my index finger is a handbreadth. So 3 of these, 2, 3, that's not much distance between pits, water channels, ditches, and launderers' ponds. And one must distance the solid residue of produce that has been pressed free of its oil. For example, the refuse of olives from which oil has been squeezed, and animal manure, and salt and lime and rocks, 3 handbreadths from the wall of another, as all these items produce heat and can damage the wall. Or alternatively, he may plaster the wall with lime to prevent damage. One must likewise distance seeds, that is, one may not plant seeds, and one may not operate the plow, and one must eliminate urine 3 handbreadths from the wall of another. The Mishnah continues, and one must distance a mill from a neighbor's wall by 3 handbreadths from the lower stone of the mill, which is 4 handbreadths from the smaller upper stone of the mill. And there must be a distance of 3 handbreadths from the protruding base of an oven until the wall, which is 4 handbreadths from the narrow upper rim of the oven. Okay, so there are pictures here. This is what a launderer's pond looks like. And these are what the millstones look like. Okay, and that's the Gemara. Okay, so because I have to get ready for my next class, we'll stop here at the end of the Mishnah. And I guess what we'll do next time is just read this Mishnah again and then continue with the Gemara. Okay, so have a good rest of the day, everybody, and see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.